If you don't understand the pieces being locked into place right now, you risk being completely blindsided by the single greatest financial system upgrade in a century. And here's the twist, specifically for our US viewers, that changes everything. While Washington is stuck in an endless debate about crypto, a man Donald Trump has nominated for Fed chair has been pushing for a digital dollar since 2018. At the exact same time, a $1 trillion American asset manager is firing up an ETF for the underlying tech. By the end of this briefing, you will see the complete verified blueprint for this new global financial network, broken down into 4 critical pillars that prove this is happening right now.
So you have to ask yourself, how is this shift this massive being built right out in the open while most people are completely distracted? Well, it's because this isn't random. The architects are following a very deliberate 4-part blueprint that's designed to fly under the radar until it's way too late to stop it.
All right, we're going to break down this entire operation. First up, we're exposing the global mandate, the top-down agreements made behind closed doors. Then, we'll dissect the actual technology that makes it all work. After that, we follow the money, the institutional billions now pouring in. And finally, we'll reveal the regulatory endgame that locks the whole thing together. Let's dive right into pillar number 1, the global mandate. And here's what you've got to understand from the get-go. This new system, it wasn't dreamed up in some Silicon Valley garage. Its foundations were laid through high-level, closed-door handshakes between the most powerful financial players on the planet.
Yeah, so just forget everything you've heard about some grassroots crypto revolution. The real origin of this new network is in quiet, strategic deals forged at the very top of global finance and government, far away from any public scrutiny.
Now this is where we move from theory to verified intel. A Japanese central bank insider has confirmed that during the Davos summit, several secret memorandums of understanding were signed. Now these are basically formal agreements to cooperate, and they were signed between governments and Ripple-based projects. They cover everything from transactions to digital ID. These aren't just chats, these are literal blueprints for implementation. And to hammer this home, you've got Raghuram Rajan, the former chief economist of the IMF, the very heart of the global monetary system, acting as a Ripple advisor. His presence isn't a coincidence, it's a direct signal of deep integration with the people who run global finance.
Okay, so those global agreements, they're just paper without the actual tech to make it all happen. And that brings us to pillar number 2. The technical foundation. For big institutions to actually use this new system, they need a very specific kind of engine, one built from the ground up for regulation and compliance.
This is where RLUSD comes into the picture. And let me be clear, this is not just another stablecoin. You need to think of it as the regulated, compliant engine that major banks and funds demand. It gives them a direct, regulated dollar rail right on the ledger, letting them completely bypass the massive regulatory risks of things like Tether. And its recent listing on Binance? That's a huge move to create the deep global liquidity this system needs to scale. But liquidity is only half the equation. The single biggest roadblock for institutional money has always been compliance. Well, XLS40 solves it. It's an upgrade that builds decentralized identity, or DID, right into the XRP Ledger. This lets institutions attach a verifiable real-world identity to every single payment, finally satisfying those strict anti-money laundering and travel rule laws. This move to on-chain ID is an absolute game changer. What do you think the biggest implications are? I want to know your take. Drop your analysis in our latest community post.
So when you put it side by side, the contrast couldn't be more stark. The old crypto world, it was all about unregulated assets and anonymity, which was a giant red flag for institutions. This new system being built on the XRP Ledger is the polar opposite. It is engineered from its very core for institutional compliance.
Okay, so with the global mandate set and the technical rails built, we now arrive at pillar number 3, the institutional floodgate. The $1 trillion on-ramps aren't a theory anymore. They are officially open for business.
And if you're looking for hard proof, here it is. $1 billion. That is the value of the world's first tokenized private equity and debt fund, launched by RM Equity Partners. They took a complex asset class that's normally locked up for the super rich and put it right on the chain. And where did they choose to build it? Directly on the XRP Ledger. This isn't some small test. This is serious institutional capital flowing onto this network as we speak.
And listen, this is not an isolated event. Franklin Templeton, a $1 trillion asset manager, confirmed that launching an XRP ETF, specifically citing the massive intellectual and financial capital already there. You've got the billion-dollar RM Equity Partners Fund. You have global brokerages like Caleb & Brown in Australia integrating Ripple payments to make USD transfers easier for their clients. This is the kind of intelligence Crypto Global News delivers daily, and I'm going to be blunt. If you're watching this without a subscription, you are missing these alerts. The algorithm will hide this content from you next week. Click subscribe right now. You need to stay on the timeline.
But none of this, not the tech, not the institutional money, none of it matters without the final, critical piece of the puzzle. And that brings us to pillar number 4, the regulatory endgame. This is all about getting the green light from the most powerful central bank in the world. This is the detail that connects every single dot. Donald Trump has put Kevin Warsh forward as his nominee for Federal Reserve Chairman. Now, as far back as 2018, Warsh was out there publicly arguing that the Fed should be seriously considering a digital dollar. Having a proponent of this very technology potentially leading the Fed, well, that signals an unprecedented alignment at the highest level of U.S. monetary policy. So let's just recap this timeline because it's accelerating. It starts in Davos with secret government deals. Then the core tech, XLS40 for ID, goes live on-chain. Next, the regulated stablecoin RLUSD gets listed on Binance, unlocking global liquidity. Then, a trillion-dollar giant like Franklin Templeton commits to an ETF. And the final piece, the White House nominates a pro-digital dollar Fed chair. You see how each step logically follows the last? It's a gathering storm of adoption. Look, to get intel like this before it even hits the main channel, you need to join my private Telegram. Use the QR code on your screen or the link in the description. Updates are much faster there. So, this leaves us with the final, unavoidable question. The top-down global mandate is set, the institutional-grade technology is live and working, and the trillion-dollar players are already on the field. What happens when they finally decide to flip the switch on this new global system? And for our US viewers, the SEC's next move could be the final catalyst. I break down the 2 most likely outcomes in this next explainer right here.
Stay ahead in the crypto market. Subscribe now for the latest global news and updates.